They weren't able to firefighters. They weren't able to make it. They weren't able to. Jamie's here. Well, he's bringing the reef down.
Gotcha. All right, if I can have everybody's attention, we want to thank you all for making it out to City Hall. I know we had to pivot a couple of times to find the right location and right time for this, depending on the weather. So we certainly thank you all for making it here. Want to recognize our online audience as well. We will let you know that the wreath is here today, but starting Saturday and Sunday, our parks director or our parks team is going to deliver that to the actual memorial marker in front of the schools where the Welcome to Mount Juliet sign is. So if you're not able to make it today, you certainly can join there to pay your respect and pray over those lives that we lost during March 3rd, 2020 tornadoes. Before I turn your attention to the chiefs that will bring down the wreath, we certainly want to thank Joe and Lauren Moss at Moss's Flowers for providing the wreath, the beautiful wreath that we have for the third consecutive year, yes, here to pay respects to everyone from the March 3rd, 2020 tornadoes. Also want to recognize our elected body here. We know y'all's time is very valuable, so we certainly thank Commissioner Ray Justice, Commissioner Jennifer Mullally, Commissioner Scott Hefner, and our County Mayor Randall Hutto as well. So thank you all for being here. And without further ado, we're going to turn our attention to the back corner for our chiefs that are going to bring down the wreath. Thank you all for being here.
You may be seated. As Justin has said, we want to welcome everyone here today as we honor, as we remember, as we reflect. Just think about we call it tragedy, event of 2020 with the tornadoes, the loss of life, not only in our city, but other 22 individuals across this state in Middle Tennessee that lost lives as well. As we reflect, as we remember, we think about the devastation, but we also think about the community. We think about the destruction, but we also think about the resiliency of this community. As we think about everything that transpired, we think about how people have come together and how we can see the rebuilding of this city, Mount Juliet, in which we love. As we think about the loss of life, and we have a member of our department now, the police department, that's from that family that we're proud to serve in this city. And so we'll never forget, that's a motto of Mount Juliet. We'll never forget the devastation. We'll never forget the loss of life. We'll never forget everything that transpired. But we're grateful for God to be able to live and call this city home. On this day in particular, that we reflect, that we come and in memorial to honor. I was telling the media that with the weather, and we can hear it now, with the weather, the impending weather that we're having, and we knew was coming, that was forecast, it makes it that much more appropriate that we can come together and that we can support one another during this time. Because when we think about the weather as it's forecast today, and we look back for all of those that were impacted by loss of life, by loss of property and everything during these times, especially, we know it's especially hard for them. So they are in our hearts, they're in our prayers, and we are certainly grateful that God has his hand here. And so with that said, we want to ask that Chief Luffman would come and give us a prayer, and then we will go further by, after the chief comes and pray, we're going to ask that Commissioner Ray Justice will come. After Commissioner Justice, that Commissioner Mullally will come. And then after she comes, that Commissioner Scott Hefner would come. In that order, please.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for everyone being here today. To say that I knew Jim Eaton would be a bit of a stretch. To say that he and I worked out together at Planet Fitness would be an even farther stretch. But for 2.5, almost 3 years, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 o'clock in the morning, we would be at Planet Fitness. He would be on this elliptical and I would be on this elliptical. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. That's not a how's your mom and them time of day. It's morning, Jim. Have a nice day. You know, that was the extent of it. A lot of times I think back on that, certainly over the last 3 years, and I really wished I'd asked Jim how his mom and them was. So I would, in my prayers for all of us, never miss an opportunity to ask somebody how their mama is. If you would pray with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive those who trespass against us, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for being here. Didn't anticipate having the opportunity to talk, but I'm glad I did. We talk about the memorial. We talk about the people in Mount Juliet. The morning that this happened, myself and our city manager, Kenny Martin, were standing in front of Mount Juliet Middle School. And we're talking about, well, it looks like it's just cosmetic damage. It was so dark, obviously, and the lights were gone. The power lines were across the road. And as I said, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. He and I were laughing about an old car that got flipped over. At that time, we knew nothing about the fact that we had lost lives. At that time, we knew only that there was just some damage. So when we memorialize this, we talk about and we think about that 2 o'clock in the morning conversation where we began the planning process of putting the city of Mount Juliet back together. At 6:30 or so in that morning, when the light came on, some light came out, and we saw what the actual devastation was to our community. The heart broke. The tears came. I've never been as proud of anybody in my life as these folks standing behind us. These are the guys that went in under the homes, under the fallen homes, to pull people out of the wreckage, to try and save animals, to do everything they could do to restore people to some sense of normalcy to the best of their ability, working 24 hours, 72 hours. I know one person did. I can never give them enough thanks for what they did. Firefighters that are not here today, they're out because of our storm damage and things that's going on that they needed to attend to, and appreciate them. They gave hours and hours and hours of their time. But that wasn't all. We had our parks department, Rocky Lee and his team. We had Andy Barlow and his team. Jennifer Hamlin's in here. She was out. She's in our planning department. Sheila Lucka was out. You know, our public works guys worked not only that day and after that, but they worked months after that, trying to restore the quality of life that we expect and so often take for granted. So to all of you that are city employees, to all the people that came out and worked and got Mount Juliet back together again, I want to thank you today. That's what this memorial is all about. Thank you. And to thank God for the opportunities that we've had here in Mount Juliet that we do sometimes take for granted. To the families, the Eaton family, and to Brandy Barker's family, our condolences still go out, and our hearts are still with them. This time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Jennifer Mullally to come up.
Well, again, thank you for everyone for being here. I didn't know I was going to speak either, but it's hard to believe it's been 3 years. That night, I didn't even know there was a storm, really. I was going to go to bed about 12:30. I always go to bed late. And then I heard the siren, and then the phone alert went off on the phone. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I look, and I see all the warnings and everything. And then Kenny and all the commissioners, texting to let us know what was going on. And then Commissioner Justice would say, well, he's over here, this is what's going on. And that was all night long. And I just couldn't believe it. And again, it was just dark. I didn't know where it was. I'm just south on the south side of the interstate and a half mile from where it went through. And I don't like storms anyway. So we were just talking about this, how men just like to go out to the porch and look and that kind of thing. And, trying to get him to come in. And we heard that freight train noise. And that was freaky. So I grabbed him. We grabbed up the dogs and ran downstairs. And we waited there for a little bit, and then he was ready to come out. I'm like, don't leave yet. But he did. So I had no idea of the devastation and all that until the next morning. And it literally could have hit anywhere, and for, what was it, 50 miles or something, a stretch that it went through. It was just unreal. And we just reflect on the lives lost, and we just, and I think about the lady in the building over there, and they told her to go in the bathroom, and that's where she was and lost her life. So one thing I remember after is how the community came together. That was just amazing how we just all came together. It's like after 9/11, how the country just came together. And so that means a lot to me, how we just all got together. We were on the same page. We were only interested in the cleanup and helping the families and everything. I have several friends down Catalpa, which is just this side of Triple Crown, which I have friends over there as well. But the couple that lost their lives, the Eatons, directly across the street from my friend, next to them, my neighbor's parents lived. And so, I went over there to help her clean up, and I could not believe what I was seeing. It was just hard to comprehend. So anyway, I just wanted to say that and thank everyone for being here. And at this time, I would like to introduce Commissioner Hefner.
I appreciate everybody coming out. Thoughts and prayers for the victims and the victims' families, and those that were impacted by the tornado. There's still a thing called PTSD. I was actually blessed. I was with my family at the time. We lived in the Clearview Estates neighborhood, and we heard the alarms. We turned the TV on and watched as the tornado on TV started heading towards direction. Many other times before, this has happened, and we'd always go down in our basement and where you should be if you have one. But for whatever reasons, we decided to not go down there. We ended up, my family went in the master bedroom, and I stood out looking out the front window of our house, seeing what I could, maybe get a glimpse of a tornado. I'll never forget the sound of that train, which in the very distance was metal on metal. And it became louder and louder as it got closer to our house. It wasn't much longer that transformers started blowing and it lit up the sky. And I actually got the first glimpse of what a tornado actually looks like. It was within, later come to find out, it was within 200 feet of my house. But I thank God I was with my family in the closet, sitting there praying. My wife was praying as the sounds of 2x4s started cracking, and the sound of glass breaking, the impulse of the house breathing in a sense, and knowing, kind of giving into the Lord that this is how I'm gonna pass. I'd given into the fact that this is how I'm gonna die, and I was thankful that I was with my family. Fortunately, we didn't. As the tornado passed, I remember running outside, and you can hear that wind. The sound of people screaming for help was deafening, and I couldn't do anything about it because there were power lines down. You couldn't see. It was dark. Was very frustrating for me. Just the constant cry for help from my neighbors. It was soon after the reality of it all set in when the sun came up, and that was the second shocking moment, was to walk out my front door and look across the street and see police crime tape being strung out around one of my neighbor's yards. And it was then more reality set in. So spring holds a totally different meaning for me. Once, and I said this a couple of years ago, it's always a time of new beginnings. The plants, the flowers are coming to life. Everything is coming to life, and spring has a totally different meaning to me. Even as today, we get a reminder that things could change in an absolute moment. I just thank God every day that I'm able to breathe and walk this earth. I do want to thank the emergency services, fire, police, specifically Captain Tyler Chandler. He was constantly on the TV putting updates because we had no idea what was going on. So I do appreciate him, and I think I mentioned that once before. So I do appreciate it. And all the community coming together was phenomenal. I mean, I had more people in my yard picking up trees. I had no idea who they were, but they were there to lend a hand. And I appreciate every last one of them, and still do. So the city is resilient, comes together when we need to come together. We are strong. We got through it, and we're a stronger community for it. So hopefully we don't have to experience that again. But in a strange sense, for me personally, we're stronger having lived through it, and I really appreciate it. I can't thank emergency services enough, fire and PD, and the community for what they did for me and my family. So I appreciate everybody's time coming out today. Thank you. Oh, Mayor Hutto. Sorry. At this time, I would like to ask Mayor Hutto to come up if you'd like to say a few words. Thank you.
It is, and I'll be brief because not much can be added to what has been said already today here. But it was, as you looked across the county, a sense of unity that happened that morning for me. Much like Scott, we stayed in the back bathroom and prayed as a family, and it hit our house as well. And for me, I guess it made it even more of a reality as a leader to come and try to regroup and put on restoration to a county. If you're just a leader and you hadn't been hit, you probably have one perspective. If you're a leader and you were up that morning for us at 11:45 and you walked out into the darkness and you heard people coming out and asking for help, it's a different ball game. I will say this, that we said that morning that we had a press conference to try to talk about what happened. And I remember, and I really give it credit to the Holy Spirit for saying what it said to me.
that, there are two great commandments, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then the last part, to love your neighbor as yourself. And the county had really shown that the neighbor was not the guy that just lived next door to you. They really came out. Recover Wilson was born, and our first responders were tremendous. Our road commission, clearing roads were another large part. Our planners that were involved, our landfill that was involved. There's so many more public works, so many people that came together. And I think that's what makes us special today in Wilson County, is that we do love each other here. I don't know if that exists in the other 95 counties, but I can guarantee that it happens here. And I'm thankful that we live here and that we're able to share what we share today. And the last thing I'll say, and the sound of the wind, it is so true for the people now that live here. We go through most of our life and we see tragedies happen on TV, and it's always somebody else. And once it happens to you, you have a different perspective of the sound of that wind and the threat. They started calling from the news stations on Tuesday, talking about, hey, are y'all preparing? And they were looking for, are we ready for the next event? And I think our county is strong and resilient. Mount Juliet is definitely a sign of that as well. And I thank you for being here today and remembering, because this thought will never go away for us until we pass on to the next world. So thank you for remembering and taking this day as a special day here in Mount Juliet. Thank you.
I know I got to get quick because I know that the police officers have to get back on duty. I know they're busy. I want to say real quick, thank everybody for coming out today. Thanks for not forgetting. We were Mount Juliet strong before this happened. We were Mount Juliet stronger after it happened. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank every citizen, every person in this county, all the adjoining towns that I called that morning and said, can you come help us? And all the grapple trucks and you name it. Everybody in this city pulled together, and we called it all hands on deck. So everybody that morning was emergency service workers, without a doubt, including the citizens, like Commissioner Hefner said. Ms. Hefner, happy birthday. I hope your birthday tomorrow is a whole lot better than it was in 2020. And I hate it for the lives that were lost. And I want y'all to look at these men in the back. When I first started with the city 33 years ago, Ms. Sheila will remember this, there was fewer than that emergency service workers that served the city of Mount Juliet. But because of the citizens and our elected body, and I want you to stand up again for me. Okay. Our Mayor Manis couldn't be here, and Commissioner Trivett couldn't be here because we had to move this 2 or 3 times because of the weather. But I want to thank personally, and I know that all of the employees and all the citizens say this sincerely and genuinely, we are a much safer city today because of this elected body, because they put public safety and citizen safety first. And to your spouses and your family members, thank you for the sacrifices you make for us as well. Because, like I said, when I came here, Chief, you'll remember it, we had a handful of tools. We got every tool known to mankind today. They went out and spent about $1 million day one because we didn't have any grapple trucks and bought us grapple trucks. They've started an EMS department. Chief, thank you for all your many years of dedicated service and everything that you've done, and happy retirement for you, because he was heavily involved in that and has been for years. This city and this commission is starting an EMS division to make the citizens of this city and beyond, because we help beyond this, safer. So it made us more resilient. So I want to thank you for that. And don't want anybody to take that lightly for just how huge that is. We had no Jamie Luffman years ago. Up until 10 years ago, we didn't have any firefighters. Not only do we have a full-fledged, one of the best on the planet fire departments, we're getting an EMS division the middle of this month. So March means a whole lot more to me and folks like everybody in this room, but in particular Ms. Hefner, that lived through this thing and her birthday. Because when you have your birthday now, what do you think of first? Birthday or this? This. So that's what brings good people together right there. So thank everybody for what you did, but in particular this elected body for giving us the tools to keep everybody out there, everybody listening from home, and everybody that'll read this safer. God bless you all, and we are done. And everybody go out here and be careful, because it's windier now than what it was before we came in here. Thank you, guys.